Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second annual Quantum Village Oxford Union-style debate. We have two topics we'll be debating today. We'll do one topic, then we will switch. We'll have an intermission with, well, I shouldn't say intermission, an exciting discussion with Jen Silvata running an Ask Me Anything session on quantum. And then we'll hit our second topic. Both topics will be debated in a similar way, Oxford Union-style rules. We've chosen the topic. We then find people to argue for and against the topic. They will make their cases. They will then have rebuttal time. You, as participants, will hang on every word. You will roll your eyes if it sounds crazy. You can moan and groan. If they make a joke, it better be funny. If it's funny, you can laugh. And then there's question and answer period after the rebuttals between each other. And then we vote and we decide who wins the debate. And that becomes the position of the Quantum Village. So let me get to the topic. And first of all, I want to say that the topics we coordinated amongst the village. The first topic is on privacy, and I want to read it directly. It goes like this. The Quantum Village believes individual citizen privacy will be enhanced with the fielding of new quantum technologies. David Joseph will argue for the proposition. Troy Mills will argue against. Let me give you a brief introduction to both of them so you know why they are the perfect people to argue these. David Joseph has been a member of the Quantum Village since the very first one last year. He's been a member of the community. He's been engaged in quantum as a researcher and at Sandbox AQ as a practitioner. He really knows these technologies and how to debate. Troy Mills is also he's a CEO of a company. He's also a member of the Quantum Village, was here last year, engaged in all of the sessions, knows these technologies, knows their business impact, their impact on the military and government. He's also extremely concerned with privacy and security and knows these issues well. So again, David will argue for the proposition and Troy will argue against. I'll be the timekeeper as the chairman and make sure they don't go beyond 7 minutes each in their introductory session, and then they will get into rebuttals. So, David?
Ladies and gentlemen, privacy is extraordinarily important to me. That's why I wore camo today. Now, first of all, I'd like to expand the definition to include not just quantum technologies, but the technologies that exist because of quantum computing technologies, quantum technologies, the security and privacy technologies that come along with it. Now, my argument rests on two main points, and the first I'm going to talk about is less interesting, but we'll save best till last. Quantum technologies bring with it some incredible novel capabilities. First of all, we can talk about quantum key distribution. It's information theoretic. What cryptographer can offer information theoretic security bar a one-time pad, right? Ask me about that again after the debate and we'll have a different conversation. But quantum computing, quantum key distribution is an incredible technology. It's completely brand new and there is no analog in classical-based cryptography. It's very interesting, and there's a whole array of different technologies that go along with it. Not too long ago, I reviewed a paper on quantum-enhanced multi-party computation. Now, I can't actually remember the specifics of what went along in this paper, but multi-party computation, as many of you will know, is a privacy-preserving technology, and this paper employed quantum concepts to improve that, right? It's incredible. Of course it will improve the privacy posture of the individual citizen, and there's a whole other array. You can use quantum computers to certify qubits. There is no analog that we have in classical computation. And yeah, these are technologies that are already here They're on the horizon, and the papers, the academia, it exists to support these ideas. But really, why I believe that quantum technologies will fundamentally revolutionize the privacy posture of the individual citizen is because of something, I don't know, it's a little bit bold, so I would invite the audience to shut their eyes and join me in this vision of a new quantum, more private world. So there are two core facets to quantum technologies and in particular quantum states and qubits. And the first is no cloning theorem, right? So it's the idea that if you have some kind of quantum state, it is not possible for you to create an exact replica of it, right? That's the sort of very condensed version of it. Now, what are the implications for that, you ask? So all of your sensitive data will, one day, just be a quantum state, right? Believe me, it's going to happen. It might not happen in 5 years' time, but it'll happen. Identity theft will be an archaic concept from history books. Children will ask their parents, what is identity theft? And they will talk about it like bloodletting, as we do now, from medieval times. And why is that? Because your identity documents, your data, it will be a quantum state. And you can't clone it, right? It's as simple as that. I haven't yet seen any papers in PRX Quantum supporting this, but this is an exercise. We're sharing a vision here. Money theft, right? If anything, just as important. So important that Peter Shaw, one of our talismans of quantum technologies, he now spends his days working on quantum money. Theft of your money, of your assets that you've worked hard to earn over the course of your life, it will be a thing of the past. Why? Because it will be, of course, a quantum state. As soon as everybody goes to clone your money, no can do, right? No cloning your money, excellent extra privacy, and Peter Shaw spends his time on it, so it must be good. And the second part is state collapse. So when you try and observe a state, it collapses, right? This is also pretty fundamental quantum mechanics. And what are the implications? As soon as a nosy ISP or a prying parent decides that they want to look at your search history, it's a quantum state. It collapses. They can't see anything. So, while some of this may seem far-fetched, it is in fact not. This is the vision of the future, and all I'm basing these completely grounded assertions around are the basic fundamental concepts that we know quantum technologies and quantum mechanics can provide to us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my argument.
Perfectly timed. Thank you, David. Troy, less than 7 minutes to argue against.
Okay, great. Let's go. First and foremost, excellent points that you brought up. No doubt, quantum holds a lot of potential, and it will change the world, no doubt. The question, though, is this new quantum technology going to be used to enhance privacy, right? I would say it depends, and I'll bring up a few reasons why I'm kind of leaning towards maybe not, potentially. I'm going to start by kind of highlighting a few good points, right? Human nature. If we think about planes, trains, and automobiles, right? And we look at, I don't know, when the first plane was built, the Wright Flyer, right? The Wright Flyer became a fighter jet, right? The first Model T, right, eventually became a tank, right? So it's human nature for us to take these beautiful technologies that can do wonderful things for humanity and twist it, right? And use that technology in bad ways. We're already seeing that now with quantum. We're talking about quantum computers. You had mentioned, again, the potential when it comes to leveraging quantum to enhance, what we're trying to do here in computer technology. But when you think about how we're leveraging quantum computing, and it could potentially jeopardize our abilities to do asymmetric cryptography, specifically RSA, right? And the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, right? Even right now, we still see that humanity is trying to use that technology in very bad ways, right? So I don't see that slowing down. The only thing that could change it is where we're investing, right? If we invest in making sure that privacy is at the forefront of our priorities when it comes to developing quantum technologies, then of course, we can really shape the future. But let's look at what's happening there. Let's pull that thread just a little bit. China, right? Specifically the PRC, the People's Republic of China, they made quantum a national imperative, which means they're investing in it. If they're investing in technology, they have what we call a first mover advantage when it comes to shaping the direction of the technology. And again, going back to the point, will this future quantum technology enhance privacy? Well, let's look at where they're making the investment. Let's follow the money. Privacy really isn't a priority for the PRC, right? So if they're making the investments and they're, literally shaping the foundations for this technology, they're going to shape the direction and the priority of privacy when it comes to that, right? So again, I'll kind of start with maybe a call to action. We have an opportunity to change that future, but based on the trajectory we're on now, I would argue that we're kind of going down the path where, again, privacy, we may lose the bubble on that potentially, right, if we don't change some fundamental things. I'll use another example. Tesla, right? I own a Tesla. I know you own one as well. Amazing pieces of machinery, but again, that first mover advantage, I mean, it was really a David and Goliath type situation where you had Tesla as a small company disrupting the entire auto industry, right? And with the recent announcements in terms of the charging standard, Tesla is leading the charge, right? So how did that happen? How did they change the entire industry, right, and become the standard? Well, first mover advantage, investing in the technology. I would argue that China's doing that today, right? So we really need to think about that. Let's see. I have a few other examples specific to the technology. I'll kind of just leave it for those two for now. Open it up for questions, and during the debate session, we'll kind of get into that a little bit more.
Great, thanks. So we heard an argument for, we heard an argument against. So we heard the argument for, we heard the argument against. Now it's time for rebuttals. They will have an opportunity to rebut each other. Then we will get into audience Q&A. So first rebuttal, David.
So how long do I have?
We have 10 minutes total, but that's our budget, so take 5.
Okay, so there are a few different interpretations of quantum mechanics. There's a Copenhagen interpretation. There is no underlying reality. The Oppenheimer interpretation is a different one. What my learned friend just articulated can only be described as a Barbie interpretation. Now, essentially, you don't need electromagnetic side channels to intercept the same old arguments that my learned friend has just proposed. That quantum computers will eventually be deployed to break our public key crypto systems, and bad guys with large quantum computers are going to steal all of our secrets. The progress of quantum computing technologies has been glacial, right? And I believe that they will bear great fruit in the future. But the point that was made was that every technology brings with it advantages and threats, right? But when it comes to threats, the greatest threats always come from new technologies which appear on the horizon and gain enormous traction overnight. LLMs. Everybody was surprised by just how well they started performing, how quickly. Smartphones, social networks. The pace that quantum computing is moving at since Peter Shaw published his algorithm in 1994 is like rolling a trebuchet at the siege of Troy towards the gates, just in time for the Greek army to deploy their latest Type 40X destroyer, right? This is the pace that we are talking about, and the countermeasures, they're here. NIST standardizing PQC. Standards are already out. Google is about to release it as default inside its Chrome browser. So while new technologies do bring with them advantages and disadvantages, benefits and threats, the threats have been mitigated due to the lamentably slow pace of engineers. I'm a theoretician myself, so I would like to invite the engineers to hurry up the pace of progress. We could all benefit from that. And then the other key point was that I do agree with my learned friend that there are certain troubling attitudes from certain nation states towards individual citizen privacy. But I would contend, ladies and gentlemen, that that is outside of the scope of the question of will quantum technologies bring better privacy. That is a question of do nation states intend to use that? Do nation states intend to bring better privacy to their citizens, or do they intend to subvert it? And so, while I agree that there are troubling things going on, that is outside of the scope of what we've been discussing.
Thank you. Troy, your rebuttal.
Sure. My rebuttal is that is 100% in the scope of the conversation, right? If you think about any technology, I'll keep it, won't even focus on technology. Imagine a brick, right? That brick itself is neither inherently good or evil. It's really the hands that wield it. You can use that brick as the cornerstone for a great structure, or you can use that brick to literally bash someone's head and do something malice, right? So the argument that we should just ignore the position, the political, social, economic position of these nation-state actors that we know are investing heavily in this technology, I think is irresponsible, quite frankly. We have to address that. It's paramount. It's important. We know that you only get out what you put in. If we're not investing in the technology, those that are investing in the technology are going to shape how the technology is being used. That has always been the case throughout human history. All I'm asking is that we, as a community, shape the future, right? We need to not ignore that reality, right? And recognize that, again, how quantum technology shapes privacy is directly dependent upon how we shape the technology and how it's used responsibly. Thank you.
Thanks. We're a little bit ahead of time, so I'm going to offer both of them an opportunity to rebut the rebuttals for a few minutes before we get into your questions and answers. So, other comments, David?
I would just like to use my remaining time not to rebut the rebuttal, because I like to think about progress and not bringing others down. So again, I would like to invite the audience to think once more about the beautiful world, the beautiful vision that I painted for you. No more search history being pried upon. No more money being sifted from your accounts by underhand thieves because they can't clone your money. No more identity theft, no more fraud. Think about what could be, and don't think about what what nation states or adversaries would like to do to bring us down.
Troy?
Yep. I'll be short. Think about both. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before you can vote, you need to have an opportunity to ask questions and make comments. So please, this is your opportunity to engage. I would ask you to speak up, and then I'll repeat it since we're recording here for everybody. Go ahead, please.
This is just a logistical question. How do you make unstealable money that can also be spent?
How can you make scalable money that can also be spent? Unstealable money that can also be spent. Can you address this?
That's a fine question from the gentleman in the dog suit. That is a very good question, and I do not claim to know the answer. I would say before it can be spent, though, we must stop it from decohering. Because at the moment, quantum money would last only a matter of microseconds. So once, again, I'm coming back to the engineers, please hurry up. Once we can get quantum states to remain in a coherent fashion for long enough for you to be able to spend your hard-earned quantum money, then we can think about how to spend it. But yes, good concern.
Excellent question. And I'm glad you asked that question, because one thing from a technology perspective that I didn't mention earlier, and I promised myself I wasn't going down in the technical weeds, but when you think about, personally I agree. I think there's a universe of possibilities when it comes to technology. But at the end of the day, quantum exists and operates at quantum scales. Reality in life happens at human scale, right? So I think that's the point you're getting at, right? Even if you were to, I don't know, I'm going to use, spooky interaction at a distance, create a perfect, I'll call it a quantum black box where I can do point-to-point communication from here to Mars, right? Instantly, right? There are a lot of technical challenges to get there, but at the end of the day, before and after I make that communication, I'm exposed, right? Because I have to operate in the real world. Ultimately, I need to spend that money. I think that's your point, right? Agree 100%. And again, I challenge everyone in the room, and I definitely agree that, our technologists that are working on these hard problems, we need to consider that. To me, it's not an or function. Don't think about just the grand vision and the future of how bright it could be. Also think about the challenges and how that technology and this vision of a grand future can be disrupted and brought to its knees because we haven't considered those hard considerations up front. I appreciate your question. I think you're spot on. I'm glad you asked. Thank you.
Other questions back here, please.
I've got a quick question for you. With quantum computing, the world that we live in today, the nature of warfare online, okay, between systems, countries, corporations, the execution of trades on the stock market, there are a number of different ways that quantum computing will change the world we live in while we still live in the world. So how do we defend against this kind of stuff that can happen in such a short period of time that the human mind cannot comprehend it?
Thank you. A very good question. And to repeat it for the recording, it's about the world is changing dramatically because of quantum technologies, and we have to defend it, is the gist of that, right?
How do we do that?
How do we do it?
So again, I'll revisit an earlier point that I made, which is that one of the unique advantages with quantum computing and quantum technologies is that we know a lot of the laws that govern quantum mechanics. We're able to prepare theoretically before the realities manifest themselves in a way that we've not been able to do for many of the other technologies that have really disrupted our world in very dangerous ways. So the fact that we have academic cryptographers and quantum cybersecurity experts already, even though the reality of these technologies is still some way off, it puts us in a stronger position than we would otherwise be with many other sort of dangerous technologies.
Troy, comments on this?
Nah, actually I don't.
All right, good. We want to keep asking questions, and one right here, please.
Question for David. Do you have any, you keep talking about how not to consider state actors. Do you realistically think that the technology can evolve independent of outside government regulation?
All right, David, and the question is about technology evolving outside government regulation, right, from nation states.
Okay, so I don't want to lower the tone of this esteemed debate, but I will mention cryptocurrencies for just a second. That essentially is the case in point, right? People believe in a libertarian future where we can create a money system that is outside of government. And at the moment, we're going through this process of, well, can it be meaningful outside of centralization? And I think what we're converging on is that there needs to be, for it to function at a large scale and bring the benefits it promises, there does need to be some level of complicity from nation states and from regulatory bodies. So that seems to me like a natural analogue to the question you're asking, but it is a separate question. So maybe it can, maybe it can't, but we'll learn a lot from how cryptocurrencies play out.
Go ahead.
Comment, I agree. Solid point. The short answer is these technologies will be influenced by nation states and regulation. There's no two ways around it. I mean, I definitely can recognize that things do move slow, right, on the government side, but the influence will be there. I don't see how we can avoid that. So, excellent question. Thank you.
Thanks. About 10 more minutes for questions before we do our vote. The vote on this village believes that with the fielding of quantum technologies, privacy will be enhanced for citizens. Question? John, in the back?
Yeah, just a quick question. Part of my question was covered by others, so I'm not going to go to that, but you were talking about first movers. I understand the PRC, I understand the risk of everything involved in PRC with other countries acting before we get there. I also realize that the EV1 is not the predominant electric car in the world. So how do we, what is our plan? What do you feel we're going to do to move forward against the emerging technologies that are coming from other parts of the world?
All right, Troy, and go ahead and repeat the question before you answer.
I was going to let you repeat it.
Well, maybe help me clarify a little bit. You're asking about how do we make sure that we get the first mover advantage?
How do we take advantage of the people who have first mover that we can build off of their successes and failures?
All right, how do we continue to take advantage of those who do have first mover advantage to just keep building on the success? Input?
Yeah, when it comes to quantum, it is going to be a paradigm shift. It really is. And whoever gets there first literally is going to control the world. So that first mover advantage, at least from my optic and opinion, is absolutely key. I think it's one of those things where if we don't take advantage of that first mover advantage, I think we're going to have a difficult time keeping up and trying to play catch up, quite frankly. But I think as a community, we need to continue to ask those hard questions, right? We can't ignore them, right? Because it is important that we recognize the challenges. And again, trust me, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, right? When it comes to this topic, but there are some hard questions that we can't ignore. Thank you.
Comments?
Okay. When it comes to first mover advantage, I think Troy touched on this a little bit earlier, but the amount that we invest in these quantum technologies is a really crucial geopolitical point. At the moment, the PRC are plowing enormous amounts of money. They're way ahead of the West in terms of how much, the dollar value that they're committing to this. The West, you might say, has a slight first mover advantage, but people have said that in a straight line race with a short disadvantage, they're very well positioned to win those types of races. That's if you see it through a vying for influence, and there can only be one winner perspective. But the way that we capitalize on these first mover advantages is, we need to build an entire ecosystem, right? We're trying to bootstrap from scratch, like everything that we've done with classical computation over the course of, practically a century now, and we're trying to catch up with all of that. We already have quantum software startups working on operating systems, while the actual hardware is still in the 1940s. right? If we asked Alan Turing what he thought about operating systems, I think you'd have got some bewildered stares. But forums like this are a great platform to get this kind of stuff going. And Quantum Village started last year, and I'm astounded by just how many more people and more participants there are this year. So yeah, the direction of travel I think is pretty promising, but yeah, we've got to put our money where our mouth is.
About 5 more minutes for your questions or comments or arguments for or against this proposition. Please.
Academically speaking, how do you teach this in an environment from K to 12, community colleges, or 2-year technical colleges, universities? Where and how? Like, the question is, how do you teach these things? Because there's conversation about the ethics part that hasn't really touched that aspect, the social aspect, the professionalism aspect. Like, the question is, how do you teach that to the kids all the way? Because I agree with you. You're shaping this new generation. How do you shape it?
Yeah, this is a good question. It is, how do we shape the education for all of us? Kids K through 12, graduate school, but also business executive leaders, other decision makers. How do we teach and learn about this new world of quantum effects? I'd love for both of you guys to comment on this. Sure.
Yeah. Excellent question. Excellent question. And honestly, I have a few people here that travel with me to get here, and that's been the fundamental question all week. The one reason why I absolutely love DEF CON is if you walk the floor and you look in the different villages, you'll see young people there, right? And they're hands-on with the technology. They're understanding fundamentally how it works. And along with that, they are gaining an appreciation of the responsibility that comes along with that power, right? Technology is extremely powerful, but we have to make sure that the ethics is taught along with that early on. Definitely agree. That's a huge challenge. And personally at home, I do work very closely with the youth, and there are people like Bob and I know we didn't mention this earlier, but we're actually on the pit crew together, right? And our kids actually went to the same school. So I have taken a lot of time to mentor those kids and make sure that they understand the technology, the ethics that go along with it, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, meaning if there is a technology that you don't quite understand, it's okay to be uncomfortable not knowing that, but be willing to learn and stretch yourself, right? That's one thing I absolutely love about the Quantum Village specifically. I mean, the volume of people in the room has grown exponentially. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I remember when Bob and I first started talking, he introduced me to a number of the people in the booth. I said, I'm not a quantum expert. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, right? But they invited me right in, right? And we had a dialogue. And I mean, look, now I'm sitting up here on a debate, right, with brilliant people. And it's an amazing thing. I think the way that we get there, to answer your question, is through engagement. We have to engage with the youth. We have to get them comfortable with the technology. We have to continue the dialogue. We don't need to ignore the hard problems. We need to put those center stage. Hey, this is a big issue. Let's not address it. Let's not ignore it. Let's address it and work together to get to a smart end state. Thank you. No.
Yeah, the K through 12 question is a really interesting one. I think quantum computing is, quantum technologies, they're naturally a very sexy topic, right? Yes, it's very difficult academically. Now, I used to hate linear algebra when I was just like a late teen, but then as soon as I started using it for quantum computing and seeing what you could do there, I started really enjoying it. But, winding way further back than that, I would like to think that most sort of 5 to 12-year-olds could also have closed their eyes and enjoyed my vision of a more private future based on no cloning theorem, right? You can explain that to children. You can explain the concept of state collapse. Maybe that's a little bit more difficult, but I think that you can do that. And so broaching these conversations earlier and getting people enthusiastic about what they can do with these mathematical tools as they approach, sort of teens, late teens, undergrad. I think that's the way to do it. Let's start having conversations at the level that we can have them with children.
Just a couple more minutes for questions, comments, pushback. Way back here, please.
Yeah, this is a question for the gentleman on the opposition side.
For
Looking
Troy.
Looking at the debate motion, I'm assuming your position is that quantum technologies and the development of it are not conducive to better user security. And given the acknowledgement of other nations that are putting in work and effort to working on these quantum technologies, and the fact that the only way to counter that is by further developing quantum technologies on this end, like the PQC and QKD, how do you reconcile your perspective with what we need to do preemptively?
All right, the question is about asking Troy to reconcile his perspectives on the dynamic between offense and defense when it comes to these quantum technologies, right? Sure.
Yeah. Quick, simple answer. I got stuck with taking the opposition point. It was chosen on my behalf. And actually, it's kind of funny. I viewed this as an interesting challenge because Bob knows me. I'm an eternal optimist, right? I'm forward-leaning. I believe that our future is bright. It is important for us to have hope, right? So I took this as a challenge to highlight some fundamental challenges that we shouldn't ignore and basically put forth a call to action, right? To the group. Yeah, I agree. That beautiful story that you laid out is possible. And closing our eyes and thinking about where we can be, that's amazing. I definitely think we should do that. But the only way we're going to get there is by putting in the work, right? It's not going to be easy. There are people that have, and other nation-state actors and the like, that have an alternate agenda, right? We can't ignore that, and we have to follow the investments, right? Again, K through 12 and beyond, right? If we're not laying that foundation, we may find ourselves closing our eyes and unfortunately seeing a nightmare. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
We just have time for one more question. I wanted to tell you there's more. We need to discuss this in much greater detail. So maybe we'll do that at the happy hour tonight. But I want to take one more question, and I also wanted to say that after this, before the next debate, Jen Sabato will be up here, and she's going to ask me anything. So you can ask her all of your hard questions on any subject. Over here, please.
Because we can see that current technology has been implemented in a way to violate our privacy, why do you believe that quantum technologies will not be implemented in a way that will violate our technology, or what can be done to further ensure that they won't?
This is a good hard question. It may be hard for me to completely summarize this, but he's asking, okay, given the state of reality and the fact that all technology today is being used to violate privacy, why wouldn't quantum technologies be used to violate this? Why or why not? Both of you guys, please.
I think that's a very good question, and I think, it's demonstrably true. So if you take, for example, quantum key distribution, one of the core facets of it is the idea of trusted nodes, right? And if you think hard about that, the concept of lawful intercept is built into that, right? It's built into that model of trusted nodes, right? And then you can take this thought exercise further and draw your own conclusions from that. But I do believe that any technology will be used to the ends of, to achieve the ends of anybody that has objectives and has that technology. My contention is that because we know the capabilities of this technology long before the arrival of it in reality, we have more time to prepare countermeasures for it. So the intentions, I think, will be exactly the same as with every other technology that has appeared. I think that we're in a slightly better situation.
Okay. I agree with your question. I'm glad you asked it. And I have kind of a second question, maybe to my counterpart here. So you said several times that quantum is kind of we're slow to getting to that practical end state, right? It's taking time. And you inferred that, by virtue of it taking longer, that gave us more time to be more responsible, right, with the deployment of that technology. So in your opinion, if you were to put a percentage on it, What percent preparedness do you think we're at in terms of deploying quantum technologies responsibly?
So quantum technologies responsibly or the countermeasures?
The countermeasures, sorry.
Ooh.
The countermeasures.
Very interesting question there.
It's a loaded question.
So, there is definitely an impetus to move faster and faster, and over the last 18 to 24 months, we have really seen a massive uptick in the awareness and the amount that people care about this. So, post-quantum cryptography has been around for, over a decade now, that acronym. But, in the last year, we saw the US government release an executive order compelling all federal departments, and, Jen really is the person to talk about this later. You can really dig into it then. But this is now becoming a federal problem. You need to understand what your roadmap is to deploy these countermeasures. NIST is in the final stages of standardizing post-quantum cryptography after a long 6-year process of cryptanalysis, whittling down 82 submissions down to a final 4 that are being standardized. And we're reaching the point where this is being rolled out. In terms of the actual challenge of how do we take this standardized cryptography and get it into every operating system, computer, endpoint, device, the World Economic Forum estimated that there are about 20 billion devices worldwide that will need upgrading. That's an enormous problem. It's very difficult, and it's one which, fortunately, there are companies devoted to trying to tackle that problem. So I'm optimistic.
I was just going to say we have a lot more work to do. Was really
Yes.
my point in asking that.
Yes.
Right, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to vote. I'm going to restate the proposal, the proposition, and then I'm going to ask if you support it, and you'll raise your hand. Mark's going to help me really capture who wins this argument. Again, here's the topic. The Quantum Village believes individual citizen privacy will be enhanced with the fielding of new quantum technologies. If you believe that, raise your hand. Do I need to ask the opposite?
If you do not believe it, raise your hand. Do we have a winner?
It looks like, unfortunately, well, Troy, you won. You carried the argument. But I wanted to say there were so many questions here we didn't get to. Maybe what we should do is everybody here jump on the Discord server and continue the discussion there, and we'll keep moving this topic forward. And with that, thanks, Mark. Thanks,
Thank
Troy.
you, Troy and David.
Thanks, Josh.